Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 9 of the Just Hone In podcast with your host, Justin Mazzola, and co-host. Brilliant. Today was a good week for me in fantasy, and a sad week for my dear friend Adam Honer, officially eliminated from playoff contention, and
It's kind of known, but the nails in the coffin for the punishment. But we'll dive into that later on. I want to start on the little plot. I mean, I don't know if it's positive, anyways. What we're talking about first, but it's definitely
yeah,
going to be negative
not
going into the section.
not a lot of news this week. The biggest news is just related to the sad New York Giants. After our podcast last week, they officially released Daniel Jones, the quarterback for the Giants, who they gave a massive contract to. But they released him, kind of protecting themselves for next year ahead of time. Started Danny DeVito this weekend against the Buccaneers. Didn't play too hot.
Danny
What do you think
DeVito,
about
baby.
the move by? Yeah, what did I say? Did I say Danny Jones?
No, you said Danny DeVito.
I did? Okay.
I think
Danny
you did.
DeVito.
I'm pretty sure you're saying it like before the podcast too.
Was I? Okay. Danny DeVito starting, but Daniel Jones released.
You said Danny DeVito again.
What's his name?
Tommy DeVito.
Tommy, dude. Tommy. Why do I confuse it with Danny? I think it's too simple.
I should have just not said anything the entire podcast and then just gone at the end and be like, yeah, it's Tommy DeVito.
Danny DeVito, but I don't know why, because obviously
Tommy
we know
Tommy Cutlets, right?
Yeah, but obviously your roommate, right? Brad DeVito.
Yeah.
But somehow I have Danny DeVito. It doesn't matter. What's his name? Tommy DeVito? Tommy DeVito.
Yeah.
Starting quarterback. Gabagool. Thoughts on Daniel Jones being released?
Well, the one thing to note that's kind of important was he apparently approached the team about it. He was kind of the one that initiated that after he was demoted to a 4th-string quarterback. He was playing reps as safety on the practice team. The writing was on the wall, so I think it was a smart decision by him where he's my services, my time here is done. And I mean, the Giants just respected that because, the Giants are going to be respectful about that. It's you committed a lot to that quarterback, regardless of, what the public perception of him is, as a franchise, you committed a lot to him, not only financially, but, with your effort. So, you just want to do by right with him. And, if he realizes it's time to go, then, the Giants are going to respect that. So, definitely, I think Daniel Jones, I think he's definitely put into the Giants haven't been great this year. And I think he's been put in a light where he's definitely he's not great, but I think a lot of people paint him out to be worse than he really is. I think that big thing was his contract, because that's what kind of everyone associates him with, was, that massive contract stuck with Daniel Jones. So that's why he's crap. But it's, he's average. He's an average quarterback, but he's not worth the money. So it's crazy. That storyline is done now, and he's kind of going to be joining, other quarterbacks in this situation, where you think you're going to be the face, but then if you don't perform, you end up being a career backup, and that journey's about to begin for him.
Yeah, I think, being a part of the Giants organization as a quarterback in recent years has been tough. I don't really they gave him a contract after he had a really good season, relative to his other seasons. I think they were very close to making playoffs, or they made it as a wild card. I think they made it as a wild card and may have lost first round. So they gave him the deal, and in recent years, and he's kind of turnovers, interceptions, fumbles have kind of been the story of his NFL career, or the narrative behind him is just turnovers and not being able to lead the Giants to victory. I mean, we saw it this weekend. Tommy DeVito started, and he wasn't able to do much either. Malik Neighbors after the game was interviewed, and he's like, I mean, I don't really know what's wrong. I mean, obviously, maybe he does. Maybe he's kind of playing a little coy, but he's like, it's definitely not just the quarterback. That's the issue with the New York Giants. So something they definitely have to figure out going forward. They have a poor record, so you'd assume they'd have a high draft pick. Maybe they draft a quarterback.
Yeah, Cam Ward from Miami, or they could go Shedeur. I think we'll
Yeah.
definitely have coming up when kind of college football wraps up and we're getting towards the draft season. Do a little draft preview, see where teams line up. I do want to make an interesting point though, about how Malik Neighbors was saying, there's different maybe it's not the quarterback, but one thing I kind of find interesting is when teams are struggling, how do NFL franchises take action? Who do they blame? Because a lot of franchises handle it differently. With the Giants, they blamed it on the quarterback, and Daniel Jones went. With the Jets, they didn't blame Rodgers, they blamed Saleh, so they got rid of Saleh. So I think for me, it's just kind of interesting seeing when a franchise is really struggling or they think they should be better, but they're not, so they got to make changes. Where do they point that blame to? So that's something that I'm interested to kind of keep an eye on throughout the next couple of years to see where do struggling teams focus their blame on.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think a lot of for the Jets, for example, when you have a player like Aaron Rodgers, historically a great player, and in recent weeks or over the last week through their bye, there's been a lot of rumors about actually they're placing blame on a lot of him, and maybe he won't return next year. Maybe he will. Who knows?
He said that he doesn't want to come back. He said he wants to come back to the NFL, but not with the Jets. I saw a news source on that.
Yeah, but an all-time great like Aaron Rodgers, who's had a lot of success in his career, maybe has a little bit more respect. He definitely does than a person like Daniel Jones, where it's easy to blame Daniel, hard to blame Aaron just because of his track record, whereas Daniel does not have any sort of track record to really. And he's no Hall of Famer like Aaron Rodgers is, but it is interesting, who people point the finger to, and at the end of the day, it's either the quarterback or the head coach. Those are the key focal points of of your team, and at the they take a lot of the backlash. Daniel Jones cleared waivers either yesterday or today. I'd assume today, just because Monday Night Football.
Nobody was going to claim him. I was talking to somebody about this. I'm like, nobody's going to take that contract. Come on, they're going to wait.
Yeah, they'd owe him, $11 million for the rest of this year plus his next year's contract. Nobody claimed him. He's, according to Adam Schefter, he's supposed to pick a team, or rumored to pick a team tomorrow. Nobody knows who. Obviously, everybody has their speculations. The Niners and Raiders were thrown out as two options. Other people are saying he might go to the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, because the Baltimore Ravens don't have. I mean, I don't know who their backup is. It used to be Tyler Huntley, and now it's
might be Josh
someone
Johnson.
else.
Honestly, I think it's Josh Johnson.
Oh, the Niners' former backup QB. So maybe they sign him. Who knows? I mean,
yeah, I think
it'll be interesting.
I think it's definitely, we were talking about this before, what kind of direction is Daniel Jones going to? And it's at first I was thinking you should kind of go to a team where you can kind of build, but it's right now, you're middle of the season, you're probably going to sign a 1-year deal. No, I don't think a team's going to sign you to a 2-year unless they're really committed to you, which obviously you just got released, so probably not. So it's might as well go for a team that's going to win you a championship than, picking a team where you can kind of rebuild and try to be the starter this year, and then try to build up your stock a little bit, and then test the market next year. Because I was thinking the Raiders would be a great fit for him, because Minshew just came out or just got out. So there's kind of like an opening there. They got AJ. What's his name?
McConnell.
McConnell. Yeah, that's right. It's forgettable. Sorry, but I also think the Raiders would be a decent option for Rodgers too, and I feel like that's his most like it's probably the most likely spot, which is kind of crazy because Devontae just came from there.
No, right? He could have
So, but I think
waited and reunited with him.
yeah, I think a contender like Baltimore would be great for him. I mean, I think there's so many teams out there that needed a backup quarterback. I don't really know the layout of every team, so I'm not going to know who's going to pick. But and some teams know those teams know themselves better than I do, so they're going to be the ones making decisions of who wants him. But I think a contender is a great option for him because, I mean, I think him as a backup role, like I think he's dealt with a lot of pressure, with everything going on that we've mentioned. We won't repeat that again. So coming into a situation where the team's playing well and you're the backup, and you're kind of able to learn and like just taking the good energy from the good team, I think would be good for him and his confidence.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, being a part of a good team can change a lot for a quarterback. I think we saw that last year with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold went to the Niners, was the backup quarterback for them after being with the Jets, being with the Panthers, being a quarterback that nobody really wanted.
And I
Niners
think
took
he's
it.
very similar to Daniel Jones in that situation. Like,
Yeah, and now he's on the Vikings and playing extreme football or really good football. I think even this year we've seen it with Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and I guess maybe those are the only two that have kind of got a reset. I mean, Caleb Williams after the offensive coordinator got fired for the Bears, things have kind of looked good for him again as well, and people get a little break, a little mental reset, and maybe they're able to set themselves up for success in the future. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out for Daniel Jones. If anything, he'll be a solid backup on any NFL team. And we'll see what happens with him
speaking
past the
of a
season.
team that needs a quarterback right now, or needs someone to be starting for them, is the Niners with Brock Purdy out a couple weeks. Tough blow, I think. I was saying this week is definitely, the week for the Niners, is the make or break week. And with the Niners losing the Green Bay, that was it. I think I mean, the thing is their division, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but their division is really tight. So they definitely have a chance. Like, I'm not going to rule them out, but they haven't performed the greatest against their divisional opponents, and they've had a tough schedule this year. And now with Brock Purdy out for a couple weeks, they're really, really need to go for it here.
Yeah, well, Brock Purdy missed last week against Green Bay, and we got smacked. I think we lost like 38-10. I watched practically the whole game. I feel like we had a lot of chances. The Niners did, but ultimately we lost because of a few turnovers, and we got the Packers to third down and not necessarily short, but third down and 10, third down and 7, a lot. And without Nick Bosa, we were not able to generate any sort of pressure on the quarterback. And they would convert on third down. Like one straight drive, they converted on 3 for third downs and then ended up scoring a touchdown. So even, if you just look on the defensive side of things, it hasn't looked as good for us as in recent, compared to recent years. Brock Purdy maybe returning this week against the Buffalo Bills, but he's dealing with shoulder soreness in his throwing arm, so you never know what happens with that, how it feels, even if he comes all the way up to game day, and then on game day he's warming up and something goes wrong. But yeah, I agree. This week is a make or break for the Niners. If they lose, they fall to 5-7. It just makes they're already at the bottom of their division because they don't have any of the tiebreakers right now.
It doesn't help going to Buffalo.
No,
it's away, right?
I think it is.
I mean, regardless,
it's in Buffalo.
Yeah,
it's in Buffalo.
Regardless, it's a tough game, but in Buffalo, it makes it even more of an uphill climb.
The Niners themselves, do not have a good schedule going forward. They, they're in a tough spot. They're 5-6 at the bottom of their division. They currently do not have any of the tiebreakers against their divisional opponents. They're 1-1 against the Seahawks, and the Seahawks have the tiebreaker. 0-1 against both the Rams and Cardinals, which if they get a win against each of those teams going forward, because they still have to play both of them, I don't know how that'll shake things up. But they play Buffalo this week, Chicago, who I think they should beat, but who knows? I mean, the Chicago Bears past 2 weeks have played, I think they're 0-2, but they lost to Green Bay off of a blocked field goal, and they lost a close, almost comeback to the Minnesota Vikings, two quality teams in the NFC North. They play the Rams, then the Dolphins, then Detroit, and then they finish the season in Arizona. So they got to get things clicking, and it's not looking positive for the Niners.
Yeah, because it was definitely looking optimistic with McCaffrey coming back, but I mean I feel like the plan just kind of, I don't know, like backfire is not the right word at all. But I think things just didn't pan out the way that it should have, in the Niners' mind.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
enough about that.
We can move on from your depression and move on to my depression. We're getting the negative energy out. It's time. I followed 3-9 against Troy, and this was my opportunity to I mean, dude, I wasn't making the playoffs. Like, my team's terrible. We all know that. That's kind of been the running theme of the year. But Troy and I were both 3-8 going into this matchup, and then loser's gonna finish in last pretty much. I mean, let's not make it cute. This is just how it's supposed to be. So it's supposed to be a big week, and my team flopped for me. It's just whatever. I mean, I had Kincaid on bye, and I mean I could have started Michael Pittman, but Quinn Johnson was fine for me, but it just didn't work out. Mahomes and Montgomery carried the team, Zay a little bit, but the team was pretty brutal, and Nico Collins and Trey McBride dominated for Troy, and whoever was going to get 100 points was going to win. So 117 was definitely enough for this matchup, and definitely took a hit here. So probably clinched for the punishment, which is the handcuff for 24 hours, which is, it is what it is. I mean, if it's Troy's only in 11, so if it ends up being Troy, it's not the end of the world. We traveled Europe.
It's not really a punishment if you get handcuffed to one of your very good friends in Troy Quinn, but
yeah, Troy and I traveled Europe together for 6 weeks. We could definitely handle 24 hours being handcuffed together. So that's definitely best case scenario. Hopefully he loses out, but I mean, I wouldn't mind being handcuffed to many people. So in the league, some other leagues that I'm in, maybe not, but this league I would be fine with that. So
yeah, I think your team 3-9, not a lot of positive going, but for other leagues, maybe other fantasy players, I think an interesting storyline is Patrick Mahomes, because to start the year he was projected to be a top fantasy quarterback, as he usually is. Did not have the best fantasy year last year.
Yeah,
but coming into this year was supposed to have
4th round. I drafted
4th round, right? That's a high draft pick for a quarterback. Yeah. Coming into this year, he was supposed to have Xavier Worthy, Marquise Brown, Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice. So his stock was up. But as you can see through the first 7 weeks, those aren't 4th round QB numbers.
Yeah, no, I was definitely getting frustrated with that. I was at the point where I was kind of contemplating dropping him.
Yeah, I dropped him in my other league. I picked him, and now I'm regretting that decision because I'm starting Kirk Cousins, who is not bad, but I'd rather have Patrick Mahomes at this point.
Yeah, I also had Trevor Lawrence I was starting, and then I needed to drop Trevor Lawrence for roster space on a bye, so I just had Mahomes, and I'm F it. I'm going to ride Patrick Mahomes for the rest of the season. If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose with him in there. I don't want to like lose with not going with my 4th-round pick that has potential. So I mean,
Right.
at least
28 fantasy points.
Yeah, so I mean, best game of the season. He did it when he needed to, but just the rest of the team didn't show up. But I've been enjoying David Montgomery though. I have him in another league, and it's been fun having him because I just think like it's so crazy how he's just like been able to be so consistent with like a double running back backfield, with Gibbs getting so much of the touches, and I have Montgomery in more leagues than Gibbs, so like when he sharks a touchdown, I enjoy it. So Montgomery's been fun to have. I might keep him in a keeper league. We'll see how it is next year, but it's hard to tell. But I mean, it's kind of this game kind of put like the nail in the coffin for me. It's over. So Troy's just got Troy, and then also Andrew and Ruben, all 4-8, are all eliminated to the playoffs. So they don't really have anything else to play for besides trying to get out of the punishment being handcuffed to me. So
yeah, I mean, you had.
I don't know if that's enough motivation for people. I mean, I wouldn't think so. I think it'd be a pleasure, but you never know.
Yeah, it would be interesting to whoever ends up being the loser, and if you end up being in the bottom, because there still is 2 weeks left. So you never know if you could fight your way out. But if you end up being one of the handcuffed people, whatever, have them on the podcast. Have a little handcuffed podcast going.
Or what we could do is we vlog it and we put it as our first video on the. We make the YouTube channel. We make it our first.
Yes.
Channel.
We've been talking about the YouTube channel. I need to download these episodes and just put them on there. It's not that hard.
We could either do that, or if you guys want, we can just do more like other content, whatever. And just throw it out there and just keep the podcast solely to Spotify. But who knows? We definitely play around with that. But we've been stuck on this for a little while. Let's move on to the next matchup because it's pretty depressing.
Cinderella story
about the 16th
another name
change
change
of the season. Yeah, beats Lulu Lucky, which is good to see. Not good to see. I mean, we appreciate Lucas. One of our few guests that's appeared on the podcast. So appreciate Lucas, but I'm only saying it's good because I will say he's gotten pretty lucky this year in his matchups. So don't take any offense, Lucas. But Jack's team, I mean, he's fighting for that last playoff spot. And this is the win that he needed. And Jane Daniels definitely led him the way.
Yeah, Jane Daniels at 30 points. That game was nuts. The Commanders were down a lot. And I think I don't even know. I don't even know what necessarily happened, but I feel like they were down by 2 scores. They end up getting one, maybe calling like 3 timeouts, whatever it is, and then got like a 70-yard touchdown or 80-yard touchdown to Terry McLaurin to go down by 1 point. So what, the Commanders scored 26, so it was 26-27 Cowboys. And then the Commanders kicker, Austin Seibert, who has been good year long, but dealing with an injury the past 2 weeks, missed the extra point. And then the Commanders kick an onside kick. Dallas recovers it for a touchdown, and ends up winning the game. I think in the last 3.5 minutes of that game, there were 4 touchdowns scored. 3 or 4, which is like unheard of.
I was watching the end of that game. It was crazy because Kevontae Turpin had that return.
That return was nuts.
But then what I thought was crazy, and I was like realizing this was a dumb move, was on the onside kick, the Cowboys defender ran into the end zone instead of sliding on the 5-yard line.
Yeah, gave him a chance.
And that's kind of like you need to be. I know you're a defensive player and you may not be able to get a touchdown, and it's like your golden opportunity. But you gotta be unselfish there because you're gonna get more criticism for scoring that touchdown than not. Because then what you do is you have to have your extra team or your special teams come out again, kick a field goal, and then you got to have your defense come back in when then when the Commanders are on the field and they're trying to win the game. Like, you got to be a little unselfish there and take a slide and just kneel the ball and end it. That's just one interesting point I kind of had from that game. But that was definitely an exciting game.
Yeah, it was a matchup that we thought the Washington Commanders would destroy the Cowboys, given the Cowboys' past few games with Cooper Rush at quarterback.
They were my confidence pick.
Yeah, last week. And they end up losing, falling to 7-5. The Commanders, that is, and I think at the 7 seed for the playoffs in the NFC. So they have the last playoff spot right now, which we'll get into later. But Jack's team, 6-6 now. Really upset that Zach ended up winning to move to 7-5, so he could have been tied in record with him. But I think Jack's team is pretty solid going forward. I think Jonathan Taylor hasn't really been performing that great the past 2 weeks. But Calvin Ridley, JSN, Malik Neighbors, I mean, nothing to write home about, but JSN, I think, has been really good in recent weeks.
Yeah, he's definitely been kind of like the focal point of that offense. He's definitely been one of the main targets, which is crazy. I mean, I faced him when he in a different league where he had like 37 points, and that was so frustrating. But it's kind of something to look for each week. I mean, dude, he's gone up to
wide receiver 8. And if you look at his history, like he has a game of 3 points, 6 points, 5 points. He has 3 fat duds, but everything else is really good.
I think Jack's team is really good in his starting lineup, but he needs everyone to stay healthy. I think he might be done with all the buys. His bench isn't very deep, so if he has some injuries, then that might hinder his chances of making the playoffs. But as long as his team is healthy, he definitely has a chance. And I mean, Lucas's team is solid, man. I think he just had some people with some down weeks. He had Bijan and Devontae on bye, Devontae Smith out. Like, definitely like a tough week for him because he had to throw in some guys. He had Schoonmaker in his flex, which I'm not gonna actually crap on him for because I did that in another league and it paid off. So, a little smart play right there from Lucas, but not putting out his best lineup. And Joe Mixon's been huge for him this year, so the fact that he had less than 10 points didn't really help his case at all.
Yeah, less than 10 points, and after a week of scoring 35 or 30-ish points and winning Lucas last week against Jason, RB7 on the year, even though he's missed 3 games, has Jacksonville this week, so you're hoping for big things for Joe Mixon, and he's projected, I think, 21.8 points.
Dude, and then he's got
heading into this week
bye, which is gonna be tough.
He got a bye, so
you need a big week out of Mixon because Dobbins. I mean, I traded him Dobbins, but it's kind of
he's dealing with an injury.
He's been hit or miss, but it's been kind of starting to turn to a bit of a split backfield a little bit with the snap.
Well, he just got injured this last week.
Exactly. So
against his former team, the Baltimore Ravens, and his whole career.
He does have Gus Bus.
Yes, Gus.
So that's good fantasy managing right there from Lou. But similar situation, just needs his team to be healthy. He's got a bit more depth, but definitely need to at least win one to clinch. Justin, I'll give you your chance, man. Look at you. You were complaining the entire season, and look what happened, man. It paid off, man.
All I'll say is I 100% had a reason to complain because started out the season 3-0, okay? Started out the season 3-0. 5-game losing streak. All in line with the podcast. Then I'm on a 4-game winning streak. I'm feeling good. I will say that. This week I was dealing with bye weeks of Josh Allen, T. Higgins, Breece Hall.
Yeah.
And I was able to prevail. I mean, if you look, Saquon Barkley, 46 points. He had 255 rushing yards or over 200 rushing yards. He had a 70-yard touchdown and a 72-yard touchdown. Yeah, 255 rushing yards. That's insane.
Yeah, he's hitting his stride right now. This is getting out of New York's been huge for him, and it's starting to really pay off now. In the midway
Yeah.
of the season.
So
What I do want to talk about from your
I'm feeling
keep going.
good.
Yeah,
I'm feeling good.
I think one guy I want to mention who's crazy. What a pickup is Jonnu. Man,
Jonnu, and let me tell you something about this.
picked him up November 6th.
I picked him up.
Days ago.
I picked him up last week. Okay.
Wait, it says added November 6th.
Well, like, sorry, we're going over this matchup. So, like, the week before, I picked him up.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks of fantasy ago, I picked him up, and the only reason, because I had Mark Andrews, and I had Dallas Goedert as my tight end, who I traded away, but I had those two. So like I was fine at tight end. I was okay, nothing crazy, but I had two serviceable tight ends. And then I ended up picking up Sam Laporta after I traded away Dallas Goedert. But the only reason I picked up Jonnu Smith is because I played Ruben 2 weeks ago when I believe Brock Bowers was on a bye week, or maybe he had to have been on a bye week because I was playing Ruben, and Ruben has Brock Bowers, and so I knew he needed to pick up a tight end, but he never did. And I saw Jonnu at the top of the waiver wire. After that is Tyler Conklin.
Right here, this is
after that is Tyler Conklin. So I'm like, shoot, I don't want to go against Jonnu Smith on a Monday night playing football. I think it was against the Rams. I don't want to go against him on a Monday night and have to sweat that out. I'm going to pick up Jonnu and not let Ruben get him, which in the past has really hurt me. I feel like I've kind of gone away from that because I'd rather have my opponent like have options to pick from and make the wrong pick versus like if I were to pick up a player who I thought's better, give him the player who I think is worse, and then the player who's worse ends up being better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I picked up Jonnu, and now he's my starting tight end going forward.
Look at that.
So it ended up
championship
being
level
pretty
team.
helpful.
I would say I'm not being biased here. This is definitely a championship level team. You're welcome for the acquisition. But yeah, dude, your team's looking good, man. And the fact that you dropped 141 on bye weeks is crazy. I mean, you're also playing Andrew's team. Andrew's team's like we say it's solid, which I mean I think it is, but I mean it just really hasn't been performing for him. And this week
but I mean look at his team, dude. He's got stars galore.
That's what I'm saying. It's a good team, but it's just not really like it's a good team on paper, but it's just not really panning out. Like like a big game like this, like you'd think with this lineup you could score over 100, but it just was a tough week for him. Just kind of unfortunate.
I was, the famous quotes of our dear friend Ryan Salazzo, he says, projections don't mean anything.
Don't mean anything. Yeah.
I was projected 107 this week. He was projected 123, 127 or something like that. And as you can see, the projections don't mean anything. And I will be honest, going into this week, I think I'm projected 133 points, which is pretty high for a 12-team PPR league. And I'm scared because every time you're projected high, you always, it's such a high expectation that ESPN sets for your team, and I feel like you always underperform. Versus when you are projected 107 and you outperform, it just feels so much better. But we'll see what happens going forward.
Our next matchup, this is a battle of the Titans right here, number 1 and 2, and Jason squeaked it out. With this solid team, man, you would think with Bo Nix in there.
He started Bo Nix over Lamar, the number 1 QB in fantasy, Lamar Jackson.
I don't know. We might need to talk to him to see what happened there. But
luckily, it didn't hurt him.
Didn't matter.
But it's a bold. I mean, it's not bold. Bo Nix has been really good. I think he's the QB3 since week 4 or 5 of the NFL season, fantasy wise.
Yeah, it is crazy. He's a top 10 quarterback in fantasy.
The first 3 weeks he started off. The first 4 weeks start off pretty slow.
Yeah,
and he's been really good. So like, I get the matchup against Las Vegas. You want to go with him?
Yeah.
But Lamar is the number 1 QB in fantasy.
Hey man, if you don't want him, I'll take him. Like, please.
Like, I don't know how you don't just start him every week. But yeah.
Anyways, team looking good. Jalen Waddle had a good week. And I mean, he was at one, he was great last year, but at points this year, he was definitely droppable, which is crazy. I mean, look at that. This is his first double-digit performance since week 1.
Yeah.
Holy, that's just crazy to think, And
I traded him to Jason, and it helped him out this week.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, if he had Darnell Mooney, if he wasn't on bye, you probably would have started Darnell Mooney over him. So, crazy stuff. I mean, Patrick's team looked good too. I mean, Caleb, DJ Moore,
He
Jacoby
put up
Myers all week.
he put up 138 points
That's what I'm saying, like,
without Jamar Chase and without
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. And he didn't even start Aaron Jones. So, I mean, we glaze Patrick every week, but his team is definitely the favorite, I'd say, going forward.
I mean, this is huge for Jason because this kind of locks up maybe a bye for him if he doesn't, if he loses out, then he's got a chance. But I mean, 9 wins is pretty solid for a top 2 finish in the league. And I mean, Patrick, like, it seems solid, but like this matchup could easily be a thing in the playoffs. And if you lose by a couple points, then that's it. You're not winning the chip. So every game does matter at this point. He's a playoff lock, but definitely needs to win a couple games to get that bye. But quite the opposite with this next matchup. Z, I mean, dude, this is the story of the season.
7-5. Would you have beaten him? What's your score?
Dropping 87 points.
How many points did you score?
I scored 82.
82.
He would beat me still. If this matchup was like I played him last week where I beat him, if this matchup was this week, he still would have won. It was crazy.
And this week would have been much worse considering you had Isaiah Likely and Quentin Johnston both put up 0 points, and you would have lost.
Yeah, dude. I probably would have snapped my laptop, and he probably wouldn't have been able to film this podcast anyways. So it's probably a good thing it didn't happen for my sake. But, I mean, Cortland's son saved him. He's about a third of the points, which he's been, with the production of Bo Nix, he's been kind of the biggest beneficiary of it, which has been crazy to think.
Yeah, kind of slow start to the season, but last 5 weeks, really playing well with the Broncos. He had 2 touchdowns, I think, at basically the end of this game.
Yeah.
That helped Zach pull off the victory. Because otherwise, I mean, if you look at Zach's team, he had Debo with 3, Dalton Schultz with 4. Not negative 1 from the Niners defense.
This is my level of a team right here. It would have looked like
that.
So
you got lucky.
Big game for Cortland. And I mean, for Ruben, I mean, he's in the same boat here because Tua had a great week. Tua is starting to come back a little bit after his concussion.
Yeah.
Good to see him back because, I mean, obviously we had a lot of concerns. And, he's starting to hit his stride again. I mean, he's had some favorable matchups in New England and Vegas. And he's got, this will be a big indicator next week against Green Bay to see if he's fully back or not. But some of the players on the Dolphins have been starting to, we talked about Waddle earlier, beneficiary, being a benefit of Tua. So Tua performing well for Ruben, but the rest of his team, not really. He's in line to be handcuffed with me. So definitely needs to win some games.
Yeah. Tua had to play him due to Brock Purdy being ruled out. And I think Ruben just suffered from a few down weeks. I mean, if you look at Javonte Williams, 2 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown, only 12. Juwan Jennings, only 9. Brock Bowers coming off a huge performance last week, only 7.8. And then Marvin Harrison, 7.7. Bears with -1. You give one of those players a normal week and he wins.
Mm-hmm.
And then, players like Jack and Josh Vaughn are maybe a little bit happier with this result considering they're trying to fight all these 7-5 teams off for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these teams on paper, I mean, Ruben should have won this matchup. Sorry, Z, but I mean, dude, Z's, this is a really big, example of, one of my favorite fantasy football quotes. It's not about how you play. It's about how you perform. Just outscore your opponent for each week and you'll get the win. And
that's all you have to do.
That's what Zach's been doing. So good on him, man. Keeping the positive energy and, is showing with this team, even though he only had 87 points. Interested to see how he goes next week, because if he can pull something off like that again, man, it'd be
He
crazy.
plays me. He
Playoffs.
plays me.
Well, that's probably bad for him because you're probably going to win. Or am I jinxing that?
We'll see.
Anyways, big week for Josh Vaughn, our other guest.
Huge week.
Huge week. Really performed. Everyone, Herbert, A-Chain, Jacobs, unfortunately not Tyreek, but Scary Terry, Kittle, and Pollard as well. I mean, everyone played well for him this week.
Yeah.
And Justice had a solid week, but just, Vaughn just had an excellent week, I would say.
Yeah, I think Justice suffered from the Cardinals not having the best offensive outing against the Seattle Seahawks. Only scoring 6 points to Seattle's 16. Kyler Murray, only 10 points. James Conner, only 9. But the rest of his team, I mean, Rachaad White, 11.7, maybe losing a little bit of work to Bucky Irving, who's on Vaughn's bench, by the way.
Yeah. Big Bucky. But Bucky had a big game, and he's projected even more next week. So
yeah, and so even Justice had played, with Drake London on a bye, played Jordan Addison, got him 30 points out of nowhere. Wide receiver 36 in the season. Every time the Minnesota Vikings threw a deep ball, normally you see it to Justin Jefferson, and it was all Jordan Addison, which I'm not opposed to, considering I played against Justin Jefferson this week with Andrew. But definitely solid play for Justice this week to throw him in the lineup. And at the end of the day, Vaughn's team just put up a gazillion points. Josh Jacobs had 3 touchdowns. Devon A-Chain had 2 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin had like a 70-yard touchdown at the end of that Dallas game that we talked about earlier. George Kittle, touchdown. Tony Pollard, touchdown. Touchdowns are going to add up, and when your whole roster scores them, it's good to see.
Yeah, I mean, this game just puts everyone in the mix together with Justice and Vaughn and Z-Wit, and
we have
who else is 7-5?
4 teams at 7-5.
You two is Justin as well.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'll put Jack in that mix with Lucas as well. All those teams, really fighting for those spots, because I feel like the only surefire spots are really, Jason and Patrick. So good on them. I'm excited to see what happens, and after next week we'll kind of have a bigger indicator, and we'll do a little fantasy. We'll do a little playoff special, or a little playoff preview, just to see where everyone's standing up and kind of go through the hypotheticals and stuff, to see what everyone needs each week. I feel like that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. Considering
got a lot of stake in it, but yeah.
Considering that you've been eliminated.
Yeah.
Are you rooting for any particular team to win it this year?
I mean, what I would say is like I would like to see somebody new. It's especially people that have like missed the playoffs over the past couple of years. Go and win it. So like seeing a guy like Jason or Patrick, who've they've been kind of inconsistent over the past couple of years, and they've had really good years. It'd be kind of cool to see one of them win it this year, especially since their teams have been pretty dominant. I think it's kind of rewarding for them. So I don't know if I'm rooting for anyone, but like, I want to see my co-host do well, because that'd be fun to talk about. But
please, I haven't, in the history of the Limit League, I have not won.
It is true. It is true. Before the Limit League was conceived, then you were definitely dominant.
I had 2 wins. I had 2 wins pre-Limit.
But those leagues were very, recreational, I would say.
Well, it was still me, you, Troy, Ryan, Salazzo.
Yeah,
there were it was a lot of like leagues and Zach Janko, Zach Volker, who.
But there's a story.
Andrew Young was in those leagues.
There was a story. I don't know if anyone knows about this.
Okay, well, that was of no importance, because let me preface this. Ryan won.
I haven't heard what I'm going to say yet.
Ryan won that year, so it did not mean anything, and there was no long-term effects of the actual result of what you're about to share. But go ahead.
It's just the precedent of it. Justin stole, I think,
As a
Salava's
joke during
okay.
lunch. During
And
lunch.
traded the best player on Ryan's team for a bench player.
And they were returned within the same
Okay.
day. They were. It's not
Anyways,
like I kept the players. I didn't keep them.
all right. Anyways, that's that. Stop the
But
sharing.
in one of those leagues, pre-limit, okay, it's a long time ago, during high school, but like early high school, I had a team that went undefeated and won the championship, and I think that says a lot. That's hard to do.
Yeah, but that's the stories. I didn't want to bring that one up where you stole everyone's player in that league, dominated. So
That league was not that league. That was not that league.
I'm kidding.
That year was
That
something
is
completely
true.
different.
It is true that's where the cheeser originated. But let's dive into the redraft league with Lucas. I'm excited to see where I'm at because hopefully
I will.
I don't think Derrick Henry had a huge week. Jamar's on bye, so that didn't help.
Well, if I can even share it, can't find it. Okay, here we go. I had to click on it again. Can you see my screen?
Of course. Wow, Justin. This is
my team's kind of crazy, and I had 2 players on bye.
Just Saquon, bro.
Saquon, but I had Kamara and Chase both on bye week, but Saquon 46, Nico 20, Trey McBride 25.3, Jameer 24.9. So I have a big lead.
Yeah.
I have a big lead, but there's still 5 weeks left, so anything can happen.
Yeah. I kind of had a tough week. Joe Mixon and Justin Jefferson not really helping me out. And then, oh wait, I don't have Jamar. What was I thinking? Garrett Wilson on bye doesn't help, but I mean, I don't know how old he's going to be. I just need Lamar and Derrick Henry to get in the prime form. It's just, had some down weeks or had some players had some down weeks. But I mean, I'm ahead of Lucas, so I'm excited about that. But he had 2 players on bye with Bijan and Drake London, so
you're ahead of Lucas by I think 1.02 points. 1.02.
Yeah, and I have 4 buys total, so I've already done 2. So I have 2 more buys. Lucas has one more buy. So
these 2,
kind of uphill
Derrick
battle.
Henry will be in week 14, which I think this is off.
No,
because
week 11.
This should be 11.
You have an extra column.
Yeah, this should be 12, and so on.
Yeah.
What do you think about Lucas's team?
I mean, Jane Daniels did his thing. Good to see him bounce back, but I mean, the CMC pick's tough because I just don't know how he's going to be producing. Like, obviously, like he just hasn't really shown himself. I wasn't really watching the game, so I don't know why. Are they just not giving him the opportunities? But I mean, definitely tough if he's going to be scoring like that. But I mean, his team's solid, man. Like AJ Brown had a good week. Like everyone's gonna have some boom, and everyone's got boom players. Like, but I think you're definitely the favorite right now because Saquon. It really is. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to get him on the swing around because with your random spinning wheel, I drafted Jamar Chase with the first pick. It went down. I think Lucas took CMC and maybe Bijan.
I took Derrick Henry and Jefferson.
Yeah, and it came back to me, and I was able to get my boy Saquon Barkley.
Well, that's just 2 weeks. He's the best, so.
80 I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but
Anyways,
but it's a fun little mini game, and we still got 5 weeks left. We'll see what happens.
Hoping it stays close. I just don't want to come last, so if Justin keeps the lead up, then hopefully I can at least beat Lucas.
Yeah, I mean we're the 2 podcast hosts. We gotta fend off.
Yeah,
we gotta fend off the competition. I mean, CMC.
It's definitely not a good look for me being last in fantasy and then being last in this. It really kind of hurts.
Well, hey, you're in second in this. Hey, you're on the podium. No matter what happens in this league, you'll be on the podium. You'd be top 3.
Yeah, thanks, man.
So,
anyways, we want to segue on to, it's getting close to the NFL playoffs. We didn't have like a ton of news, so we thought it would be cool to kind of just look at the standings and see where like teams stack up and kind of what to, kind of be able to visualize what's the playoffs going to look like. So I'll share my screen again. Let's kind of go over the NFL division standings and kind of talk about each division. I mean, some longer than others. This is definitely be a shorter one. The Bills got this division locked in. But do you think the Dolphins can squeak into the playoffs somehow?
I think a lot's got to go right for them. They're 5-6. I think when we were looking at it earlier, the Broncos are the one who have the 7 seed, and they're 7-5. So, they're a wild card. So a lot's got to go right for the Dolphins. They got to win games. They play the Packers this Thursday on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
it's the night game. So they got to start there. They got to get to 6-6 and hope the Broncos kind of fumble. I will say, in unrelated news, I really, really had to take a piss. So Adam, I'm going to let you take over, okay? And I'll come back and just keep spewing, keep saying your thing. All right? I'll be back. Right, keep going. Unless I can stop. I don't want to stop the recording and then like not be able to go back. So I'm just we're gonna wing it. All right. I really have to go to the take a piss.
All right.
Keep it ripping.
I wonder if there's gonna be. This is definitely weird. This is definitely a first, but go. Just stop. You gotta take a piss. Stop sitting around. All right. So, yep. The Bills definitely going to win this division. The Dolphins definitely going to win some games if they want to win it, but I just don't really think the Dolphins are going to make it. I don't know. We'll talk about the NFC later, but I feel like the AFC is definitely like less. Like there's less teams competing for the last spot, just because like there's some really good second place teams. So, and I mean one of the main reasons is the AFC North because it's a toss up between the Steelers and the Ravens. The Steelers won against the Ravens a couple weeks ago, which was crazy because I thought the Ravens were going to win. I thought because the Steelers had a really good record and they weren't facing, their schedule wasn't crazy and they hadn't faced anyone in the division. So I'm like, oh, this is kind of a fluke. But they beat the Ravens, but they lost to the Browns, which is like, what the hell? This is kind of crazy. So definitely still a tight race. And this division's always really interesting, even though, there's, the Bengals and Browns at the bottom. Obviously, it would be cool to see the Bengals make a push, but I might be a little too late, especially with this, tough division. They're going to have to, beat the Dolphins, So, Steelers, Ravens, I think the Ravens are going to squeak it out just because the Ravens are the better team overall, and I think they're going to finish stronger. But I definitely think the Steelers have one of these playoff spots on lock. So, I'm interested to see what happens there. AFC South, still not there. AFC South, this is like a one-team. I think this is a one-team playoff division with the Texans. I think the Texans are going to win it. The Colts are making a push. The Titans and Jags are kind of out of it, but Colts are making a push. But the Texans, I think, are definitely the favorite. Justin's back. Hello. Texans are the favorite. They're going to win it up. But I think if you want to make the playoffs in this division, you got to win it. So. Any other thoughts on the AFC South, Justin?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Texans win it. The Colts, it's the AFC, so it's going to be tough. They're already below the Dolphins as is, and so you have to have the Dolphins choke. You have to have the Broncos choke. There's a lot that has to go right for the Colts, and the Colts have to win games, which they haven't proven that they're able to do. I think Anthony Richardson post benching coming back has been stronger, but still, like they lost last week, so things aren't looking too bright for the Colts. They're just trying to see what they have in Anthony Richardson going forward the rest of the season, and hopefully head into next season with a positive outlook.
Yep. Moving on to the AFC West, this is definitely the most competitive division in the AFC. The Chiefs look like a lock to win it. The we've mentioned this a lot of times, but the record's kind of deceiving. Like they shouldn't be 10-1, but like they are. So we just kind of have to accept that fact. And I think it's too far of a lead to really blow it. But I mean, Chargers and Broncos are having really solid years, So I think it's big. I hope it'd be cool to see both of them make it because you don't really see anything from the Broncos, and the Chargers are a sneaky team, and they always have to deal with the Chiefs. So it's kind of cool to see some spotlight from them. But they still have a decent amount of division games left, as you can see over here. Chiefs still have 5 more games, or 3 more games actually. Chargers have 3 more games too. So it'll be. I think the division's gonna be a big sign, and if one of these teams kind of struggles at the end, that's kind of where the Miami Dolphins and the Bengals can kind of squeak in, and potentially the Colts.
Yeah, I think this team in the past, it's always just, the past few years, it's just been Chiefs without a question winning the division. The rest of the teams aren't making playoffs. And, it still is Chiefs at the top, but the Chargers and Broncos making some noise in the AFC West. Both of them have wild card spots as of right now. I imagine at this rate, all 3 teams will make it to the playoffs. The Broncos still have a bye week to face in Week 14, so we'll see how the record holds up against those who are still able to maybe compile a win during the week that they're out. But I think all 3 of those teams have a good chance to make it, and they just have to, they kind of control their own destiny. The only thing that helps out teams like maybe the Colts, but I'd say they're very unlikely, but mainly the Dolphins, is the fact that these 3 teams have to play each other
exactly
going forward. So if you're the Dolphins, you're, as much as you might not care for the Chiefs, or the entire world doesn't care for the Chiefs, you're hoping the Chiefs just win and hand these Chargers and Broncos.
And the Raiders, right?
Yeah, and you're hoping the Raiders win the divisional matchups as well.
Yeah, but 0-4, it's not looking good. Moving on to the NFC, we got the NFC East with the Eagles having a commanding lead. Nice pun there, you like that?
Yeah.
And I definitely thought the Commanders would be a little more competitive, but I think they're falling off a little bit. They've had some tough matchups. I still think they're still on a wild card spot, and I still think they're going to squeak in. But I think the Eagles have definitely kind of taken control of this division, and with behind Saquon, it's pretty ridiculous how crazy their offense is right now. So I'm interested to see how the Commanders finish up the season, and hopefully they can get in one of those wild card spots.
Yeah, similar to the Broncos, they hold the 7th seed in the NFC, I believe, and so they got it. I'd say they kind of control their own destiny as well. If they play well the rest of the season, they should be fine. I think the only teams really threatening them are any team in the NFC West, with the Niners, Cardinals, and Rams, and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if they just hold on to this record, or winning percentage, I think they'll be fine. But if they've lost, the past few weeks, they've compiled a few losses over the past few weeks. So if they right the ship and get back to their winning ways of the early season, they'll be just fine. And an exciting team with a rookie quarterback as well, similar to the Broncos, leading a team to the playoffs could be fun to watch.
Well, moving on to the NFC North, this is kind of the reason why the wild card is so crazy, is because we got the Lions at 10-1, the Vikings 9-2, and the Packers 8-3. So we pretty much have 3 playoff teams right here in the same division, and the Vikings and Packers taking up the spots, are going to hurt teams even though the Commanders are in, it's going to, doesn't help them at all. Also with these NFC West and NFC South teams, it's definitely they're definitely making it difficult by having such a tough division. So it's kind of crazy. The Lions have been so dominant, yet they're far from clinching the division. I think my prediction is still the Lions. I think the Lions are the best team in the NFL right now. I don't know if that's a bold statement at all. I really do think they are, based off their performances. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings, or the Packers came from behind if the Lions had a rough skid. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of go up against each other. The Vikings and the Packers each still have 3 more division games. Lions still have 4. So definitely intrigued to see how this NFC North stacks up at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think the Lions should win this division. They have to play Chicago twice going forward. Maybe just once. I feel like they played. No, they play Chicago twice going forward, as well as they played Green Bay once and Minnesota another time. So those would be 2 key games because the Vikings right now are holding steady at 9-2. The Packers at 8-3. You lose a game or two, you're risking losing out on that number 1 seed and the automatic playoff berth with a division win. But I think the Lions
Yeah.
hold steady. It'll just be interesting to see how the Vikings and Packers, if they have to lose to the Lions, how those losses affect them going forward. But I think all 3 of those teams make the playoffs no matter what. It's just obviously who gets that 1 seed, which will be
Yep.
which would be an advantage.
Moving on to the NFC South, I think the NFC South and the NFC West are, in a similar situation where I think it's a 1-team division. And I think with the NFC South, it's really between the Falcons and the Buccaneers. I know the Saints are kind of close, but I just don't really think they have what it takes. I think if you would have asked me maybe like 2 months ago, I would say like the Falcons, but I really think the Buccaneers are going to squeak out this division. The Falcons, they did. The thing is, the Falcons did dominate the division 4-1. They only have 1 game left. So, I mean, they definitely have the tiebreaker there. But I think the Buccaneers have been really solid this year, and I feel like the record's a little deceiving. So they could definitely squeak it out, but I think it's between these 2 teams for sure.
Yeah, the Falcons I think have gone 2-0 against the Buccaneers this year, so they already have that in their favor. But the Buccaneers, they're 5-6. They had several games without both Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They just got Mike Evans back this week in a dominant victory over the New York Giants. And to start the season, the Bucs had a tough schedule. Like they had to play teams like Detroit, Denver, Philly. They lost to Atlanta twice. They played Kansas City, San Francisco, Baltimore. And going forward, I mean, they had their bye. They played the Giants, smacked them. They play Carolina this week. They play Las Vegas next week. They play a tough matchup in the Chargers, potential tough matchup. But then the last 3 games are against Dallas, Carolina, and New Orleans. So you think they have 6 games left. I think you put 5 of those in the bag, and maybe the Chargers game is a toss up. Now you still got to go out and win every week. But if they could go the rest of the season 5-1, I think that definitely helps their chances.
Oh, 100%. I think they
In
go
winning
5-1, they win the division for sure.
in winning division. So
Yeah. I mean, even if they go 3-3, they definitely have a chance. So, but definitely need to win more than lose some to clinch that division.
yeah,
But similar situation with the NFC West. I feel like it's even tighter. I mean, it's crazy. Seahawks are leading. But the division is really tight. Man, I mean, I think it's definitely fortunate for the Niners that they're in this division, because if they were in another division, we wouldn't be talking about them as a potential playoff team, but they are, just because this is the division. But to be honest, I think this is a toss-up. I think Seattle's the favorite potentially, but I think it's really close between Seattle and Arizona. But I want to hear your thoughts.
yeah. I think it all starts this week when the Niners, as we discussed earlier, when they play the Bills. If Purdy's back and they're able to get out a win, they have a chance. If they lose, I think that's it, because they lose to the Bills. They have a really tough schedule remaining. They have to play both the Rams and the Cardinals. They play Detroit, play the Bills this week. I think it'll either be the Seahawks or the Rams to come out of this division. If it's not my Niners, but we'll see. I mean, the Seahawks 2 weeks ago, the Seahawks played the Niners. They won a game. They won the game, a comeback victory. 2 weeks ago, the Seahawks were in last, and the Niners were in second,
Yeah.
and now the Niners are last, and the Seahawks are in first. It's like this conference could go back and forth every week. The only thing that sucks with the
every week this can
Niners,
flip upside down. So
yeah, the only thing that sucks is the Niners don't have any of the tiebreakers right now. So,
Yep.
if they get a win and someone else get a loss, they'll still be below them if they have the same record.
Yeah,
So they got to stack some wins going forward.
Yep. Well, definitely, I'm definitely interested to keep my eye out on this division because it's definitely. I don't know if it's the most. I think the most interesting division I'd say is the NFC North, just because. I mean, look at the records. That's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is definitely a division to keep your eye out on. All right. It is time. We're talking about the standings. Let's make our picks for Pick'em. Share screen.
Pick'em.
Did it? Who won last week?
You did. Not my strong. You're 4-1.
4-1, baby. Let's go.
4-1. You're strong. Maybe we could just say I'm giving you these victories because of your fantasy season, but it hasn't been a good performance for me. I mean, we're typically only deferring by 1 or 2 picks, and you're getting those right. So power to you, I guess. We'll see what happens the rest of the season.
But let's just dive in. Got a little division matchup: Detroit versus Chicago. Ryan with Detroit at home. I mean, this is pretty obvious. I think they're the best team in the NFL. I mean, Bears, I think they definitely have a fighting chance, but they're just not on the Lions level.
Yeah, I got Detroit as well. 3 Thanksgiving matchups.
Yes.
Per usual.
9:30 a.m.
1 in the morning, 1 in the middle of the day, and 1 at night. The games, I will say, are not too crazy interesting of matchups, but hopefully we see some good football on the day of Thanksgiving. And in this one, yeah, I got the Lions, kind of an easy pick. Can't go against them.
All right, Justin. We got our afternoon Thanksgiving game: the Giants versus the Cowboys. Justin.
I got the Cowboys in this one. I think Tommy DeVito is now questionable for this game, so they might have to go Drew Lock at quarterback. But I got the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys came off an impressive win against the Commanders, and so I'm gonna stick with them.
Yep, going with the Cowboys as well. Impressive week last week against the Commanders because we definitely wrote them off. I mean, dude, the Commanders were my high confidence pick, and the Cowboys proved me wrong. So, Ryan with Dallas. I mean, I'm intrigued to see. I mean, if Drew Lock gets some snaps, I'm intrigued to see what the Giants look like because, I mean, I have a feeling that Drew Lock is probably going to be better than Tommy DeVito, unfortunately, even though I like the storyline. But, I mean, I think I got Dallas.
Yeah. Right. Interesting thing is, I will say last thing about that. 2 weeks ago, I think we talked about the sun that comes into the Dallas Stadium.
Yeah.
That kind of blinds players. This is a matchup, I think, at 12:30, so maybe it's 2:30 Dallas time. Sun could become a factor. See what transpires.
I hope they cover it up. They should just be covering that up regardless. I hope they've done that.
I don't think they will. So it'll be if Dallas Cowboys drop a few balls, maybe Jerry Jones gets some more flack about it. We'll see.
Well, that should be a no-brainer. But anyways, hopefully it is covered because I would make sure it's covered. All right. Miami playing in Green Bay for the Thanksgiving night game. I'm riding with Green Bay. Green Bay looked great last week against the Niners. I mean, this is definitely they definitely made the Niners look really bad. They're riding hot behind Jordan Love. Ryan with Green Bay.
Yeah, I got Green Bay as well at home. They look like a good team. They even won a game or two without Jordan Love.
Yeah.
I got them in this matchup. So that doesn't, as we talked about earlier, that doesn't help the Miami Dolphins in their playoff pursuit.
Yep.
I hope it's a shootout. I mean,
yeah,
that'd be nice. After Thanksgiving meal, because I think my family typically has that around 3 or 4. Turn on the game and hopefully see something good happen. Exactly.
Yep. All right, Justin, Vegas, Kansas City.
Tough pick.
This is a Friday game, by the way. This is a Friday at noon.
tough pick, regardless of what day of the week it's on.
Do it,
Gardner
Justin.
Minshew
Do it.
out for the rest of the year, or at least a few weeks. So you think Aiden McConnell going into quarterback? Tough pick. Kansas City at home too. They're not that good at home.
Don't do it to him.
I got the Chiefs, baby. Come on. I hate the Chiefs, but if they lose to the Raiders, I mean, they almost lost to the Panthers last week, which would have been crazy. I was rooting for it, considering we both picked the Chiefs to win, but Chiefs got to win this. I mean, come on, it's the
Yeah,
Raiders.
you did say Kansas City, baby. So maybe you're a little secret Chiefs fan. I don't know. The way that you said that when you picked the Chiefs was very concerning.
I just can't give you. I'm already going to give you a free.
Rewind maybe 30 seconds and clip that and
Just
send
clip
that.
it.
See how excited he was when he said that. It sounded a little concerning for me. I got the Chiefs. I'm not as excited about it as Justin is. They're going to be Vegas. I mean, this is a mismatch. Give the Chiefs. All right. A bit of a closer game, I would say, starting off our Sunday slate. We got the Chargers versus the Falcons in Atlanta. I'm riding with the Chargers. I think the Chargers, they played a tough game against Baltimore, and they definitely hung around with them. And it kind of showed, they are playoff caliber. And I'm just, even though, the Falcons are leading their division, I just don't know if the Falcons are playoff caliber. So I got the Chargers.
Yeah, I got the Chargers as well. I think the Falcons, they were really good. They were 0-2. I think they were 0-2. One on a win streak, then one on a losing streak. I think the Chargers are just probably a better team than the Falcons at this point. I think it'll be a good game. Should be a good game. Yeah. But I got the Chargers in this one, pulling it out. Well, yeah, I got the Chargers.
All right. This is literally a 50-50 split. Wow. This is crazy. Justin, Steelers, Bengals.
I kind of want to change my pick in the last one. Can I change it?
You know what? I'll give you a pass because I haven't made mine yet, and I'm going to stick with who I have. So.
No, in the last one.
Huh?
In the last matchup. The Falcons Chargers.
Yep.
I'm gonna go Falcons.
Oh, you're gonna change?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
I'm gonna go Falcons. I think.
You just said the Chargers.
I did, but I'm gonna change it.
What is this cheese?
Do you want me to? I mean, I can keep it, but we're just being boring and picking the same teams. This could help you.
We're probably gonna split here with the Steelers Bengals.
I don't know if we will.
Don't worry about me.
I'm going Falcons.
All right.
I was reconsidering because I don't think J.K. Dobbins plays this week. And I think after he went out, it's like all the Chargers were doing, and part of that was because they were down, but all the Chargers were doing was throwing. Maybe it was just because Quentin Johnston dropped a few balls. But I'm gonna go with the Falcons in this one. So I'm gonna switch up.
All right, how about Steelers Bengals?
I got the Bengals in this one. I think the Steelers have won maybe they only had one, or they lost last week to the Browns. They beat the Ravens in a game I think they should have lost because Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals. And I just want the Bengals to. I mean, what? They're 4-7. It's going to be a long road to the playoffs. But I just really want them to win. I'd want to see the Bengals in the playoffs. Like their offense is really good. Like that's what you want to see during the playoffs. So I'm gonna root for the Bengals solely because I want them to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the Bengals win, but I got the Steelers. So I'm going to change my. No, I'm kidding. I'm not just. Ryan with the Steelers. They've been impressive this year, man. Like, not gonna lie, like 8-3 is a bit deceiving, a bit overachieving, but I think they're gonna beat the Bengals. Yeah, simple as that.
There we go.
All right, Arizona traveling to Minnesota, and they're not going to win. I am going to go Minnesota Vikings. Arizona's solid. They're definitely one of those contenders to win the division, but I think the Minnesota Vikings are just really good this year. To Sam Darnold, rhyme with Minnesota.
Yeah, I got Minnesota as well. In Minnesota, Minnesota is a very tough place to play. Their fans go pretty nuts for them. Kyler Murray has had really good weeks and then kind of off weeks. Had an off week last week against Seattle. I think coming out of the bye, I picked them last week to win against Seattle, and that's what kind of made me lose to you. But I think coming off the bye, I was a little bit nervous about their maturity as a team. They they got Kyler and then a rookie and Marvin Harrison and second year tight end Trey McBride. I was a little worried about their ability to come off a bye and win a good win against Seattle. Picked him anyways, but I think going forward, especially against a good team like the Vikings, I gotta go with the Vikings.
All right, solid pick, Justin. We got the Colts and the Patriots.
I think this is a lot tougher than it looks, but I'm gonna go with the Colts in this one. I think I don't know. I'm hoping Anthony Richardson can put things together, so I got the Colts.
Yeah, you are right about it being a bit of a tougher pick, but I'm gonna go with the Colts as well. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot riding on this game. I think if they lose this game, I think their playoff shots or their playoff hopes are kind of shot a little bit. This must win for Indianapolis. They got to beat the Patriots if they want to be a playoff team. Going with the Colts.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an interesting game. Seattle going to New York to play the Jets. I'm gonna ride with Seattle. I think the Jets just got too much going on right now, and I think Seattle is the favorite, in my opinion, to win the division. I think they're pretty solid behind Jackson Smith and Jigba and K9 riding with Seattle.
Yeah, I got Seattle in this one. The Jets are too much of a mess right now to root for or to even pick. They're 1-7 in their last 8. So with all the Aaron Rodgers drama over the last 2 weeks, I gotta go with the Seahawks in this one as well.
All right. We got the Titans playing the Commanders. Justin.
Well, here's where I shocked the world.
No.
I got the Titans, baby.
No way.
Coming off an impressive win against the Houston Texans. I'm picking the Titans. Enough said.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm going with the Commanders. I think it's a good underdog pick just because how they coming off last week. But I just think the Commanders are better than the Titans, and it's kind of more of a favorable matchup for Washington. So I'm going to go with the Commanders on this one. But I'm surprised you went with the Titans. But good to see.
Yeah, it's 95% picked the Commanders, 5% picked the Titans.
Yeah.
I think just the Titans coming off a good win against the Texans, who we'll talk about next, and the fact that Titans offense looking a little bit better after they benched Will Levis for a few weeks, now coming back to him.
Yeah.
I think the Commanders coming off a tough loss to Dallas, who you think they'd blow out the water. I don't know. Thought it'd be a good pick to differ upon, and gonna go with it.
Round with the form. It's not a bad way to go at all. It's a good way to look at it. But Houston playing Jacksonville. I got Houston. Houston, like we said, lost to Tennessee last week. Tough matchup for them. But they should be beating Jacksonville. The Titans are definitely better than Jacksonville. So round with the Texans.
Yeah, I got the Texans as well. Jacksonville's got none of my respect, so enough said.
All right. Nope. Kicking off the afternoon games. We got LA traveling to New Orleans. Justin, who do you got?
I got the Rams with Puka and Cooper Kupp. Their offense is looking pretty good. I think they lost a tough game last week to somebody. The Eagles on Sunday night.
I mean, the Eagles are
So
really good.
I think if they don't play the Eagles, they win. I think their offense is looking a lot better going forward. Their defense is still, they got destroyed by the Eagles' offense in Saquon, but I think their defense it's young, but it's solid. And the Saints, I think, are pretty cheeks. So I got the Rams in this one.
Yeah, I got the Rams as well. They're still a contender for this division. Well, I don't think the Saints are in theirs. Guys are finally healthy, coming back together, and this should be, a good confidence boosting game for them, in my opinion. I think it can still be close though.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Do you think so? The Saints just came off their bye,
Yeah,
but before that, the week before, Taysom Hill, 43-point week.
yeah.
I think it was against the Panthers, but a 43-point week, 3 touchdowns. What do you think he does in this game? They don't
I
have many wide
mean,
receivers. It's just basically him and Alvin Kamara running the show. Maybe a few deep bombs to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Do you think he pops off, or do you think he comes back to earth?
I just don't think McVay lets it happen. To be honest, I think he'll get the looks, but to get 43 points or to get anything near close to what he had against the Panthers,
Let's say 20. You think he scores 20 fantasy points this week?
I think like a
He's projected 13, I think, in PPR formats.
I think
So do
like
you think he
12.
booms, or do you
I
think he
think he's gonna
busts?
hit like 12 to 15.
Okay.
I don't think he'll boom. I think he'll get around that average. I think that's about right. Because I think he'll get the looks, but I just don't know if he's gonna have the same output as he did against the Panthers because I think the Rams are much better.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of the Panthers, we got Tampa Bay going to Carolina, going with the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers can still win this division. They've had some tough matchups, like I mentioned earlier, and they should be beating the Panthers. But it's the NFL; you never know. But Buccaneers should be winning this.
Yeah. I got the Buccaneers as well. I think they really stack up some wins end of season with the strength of schedule that they have being pretty weak. Um, so I got the Bucks in this as well.
Okay, we got a nice little afternoon game. We got the Eagles versus the Ravens. Justin.
Probably America's game of the week, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I wish this was a bit more better prime time, but it is only one of 3 afternoon Sunday games, so a lot of eyes on this one.
I got the Eagles. I gotta go with my boy Saquon. I need him to play well, so that means I think the Eagles will play well, and I got the Eagles in this one. Yeah, it should be a good game, um,
Mm-hmm.
and it could come down to a last drive type of thing. Which, in that case, if it comes down to the last drive, I would probably trust the Ravens more than the Eagles, but I got the Eagles in this one.
Yep, I'm gonna go with the Ravens. Got to ride with Lamar and Derrick Henry on my redraft squad. I think the home field advantage definitely helps. But this could be a barn burner. This could be a fun ass game. I know I'm gonna try to watch this one. My flight might be during it, which is unfortunate, but back to San Diego. But I am excited to see the highlights or at least the outcome of what happens. All right, Sunday Night Football, Niners Bills. I think if we were looking at this game early in the season, we'd be pretty excited for it. But with the state of the Niners now, I think this is the Bills' game to lose. I got the Bills. The Niners are depleted and not playing their best football, and the Bills are 9-2 and playing at home. Ryan going with the Bills. Justin,
Yeah.
don't do it.
Well, at this point, we've done. I think we've only deferred on 4. So, like in
I think it's
theory,
been, I thought it's been 3.
I think I picked the Falcons. You picked the Chargers.
Yep.
You picked the Steelers. I picked the Bengals. So that's
Oh, you picked the
2.
Titans. I forgot.
I picked the Titans, and then I picked the Eagles.
And then you're going to throw on
So
this one because you're going to pick the Niners like you always do every week.
right. So
What's right? Wait, what does that sound like?
Brock Purdy.
No.
Now we normally don't do this, so you have to accept. And now, if you're a nice guy, you will accept. If not, I'll roll with it.
No, I mean, it's your choice. It's not my. I'm
So
not picking the team for you.
Brock Purdy's questionable this week. So I'm gonna do a little conditional. If Brock Purdy plays, I'm going Niners. If Brandon Allen is our starting quarterback, I'm going Bills. I can't I'm down 4-1 in this pick'em. I can't just
I'll give it to
forfeit
you. I'll
another
give it to
game.
you. But Purdy plays. Don't say you picked the Bills.
No, Purdy plays, I'm picking Niners.
Okay.
Purdy plays, I'm picking Niners.
I'll
Brandon
give you
Allen
that. I'll
plays,
give you
I'm
that.
picking
This is
Bills.
one conditional. I think that's fair.
So depending on how our Monday night pick goes, we may need to pick another confidence pick, which we can do
Well,
regardless
we'll do that anyways.
of tiebreaker.
All right, Monday Night Football. Justin.
I got the Broncos. I was happy that the Browns won last week against the Steelers. I think the Steelers, they have been good and they have won impressive games. They won against the Ravens 2 weeks ago, but seeing Jameis Winston win, he's a kid, who gets a piece of candy. His eyes are always just absolutely lit up. He's the happiest man on earth, and him getting a win against on a Thursday night game was good to see. But in this week, I got the Broncos in Denver. Bo Nix rolling. Broncos defense good. So I got the Broncos winning this game.
Yep, I got the Broncos as well. I mean, it's cool to see the Browns win some games with Jameis Winston. Definitely can back up everything. I definitely agree with a lot of what you said. But I think the Broncos defense is going to be too good for Cleveland. They just don't have enough weapons, in my opinion. Round with Denver on Monday night.
Okay.
Oh,
So
we forgot confident. I already exited out, and we got to do high confidence. Did you have?
So we'll do this going forward just to kind of give our confidence pick as it's titled. Yep. But in the event, as of right now, we have five picks.
No.
Different. So there will be no tie. In the event that Brock Purdy does not play and my pick changes to the Bills, we'll need to use this as the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
And considering you won last week, you get to pick first, and I will pick second.
Going with the Lions. You took the Lions from me last week. Have to go with the Lions again. They've been the highest scoring offense in the entire NFL. Ryan with the Lions.
Okay.
Dude, what you should do? You should do the Niners Bills confidence pick. If Brock Purdy doesn't play, you just go with the Bills. That would be the funniest thing ever.
Well, okay. So yeah, I'll do that.
No.
Brock Purdy doesn't play. That means we need the tiebreaker. I got the Bills.
Oh my gosh!
I got the Bills.
Trail. This is the ultimate.
And that's.
Dude,
the Packers beat them 38-10.
If Brandon Allen starts and the Niners beat the Bills,
it's a win-win.
Well, on the next episode, I want you to do a 1-minute apology to Brandon Allen.
Okay, we'll do. Done. Easy.
Okay.
All right.
And that's how we'll start the show. Start with the apology, and we just dive right in.
Yes, we will.
But making it exciting, making it fun here. Definitely want to.
We differed on a lot of picks. 5, I think, is an all-time high. I'd have to say.
Yeah, I was surprised with that Titans pick, but I mean that's definitely a cool money line.
Hey, it's one. I gotta make a move.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta make a move.
Yep.
I'm either gonna lose by a lot or slowly try to climb back into this race.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Well,
that wraps up the Week 12 NFL update. Week 13 look ahead. And I think it could be over by now. I had it paused around halftime. But the Lakers played the Suns tonight in an NBA Cup matchup. must win for the Lakers if they have want any hopes of advancing. Uh, Lakers now 10-6, currently in the playoffs, which means nothing at this point of the season. But I don't know. How do you feel about the Lakers going forward?
I mean, I think they're right where they need to be right now. I think it's okay to struggle right now. It's the early season, and you need to work the kinks out, especially like it's a pretty young team. Like when you think about like especially a lot of the bench pieces that are playing on the floor, and you got like Connect and Max Christie getting a lot of minutes. Like this is a young team, so you definitely need to make sure those guys are ready. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like the goal is to make the playoffs, and you need to figure out what that rotation is. So you need to get those guys reps as much as they can if they're going to be the guys. So I think a 10-6 record is definitely like nothing wrong with that. In the playoffs, in the top 6 right now in the West, so you can't really be complaining right now. Just need to keep playing some consistency, and hopefully the Lakers can make a cup run, because if they make back-to-back cup runs, that would be crazy. I would love to see that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Um, I've been seeing an articles recently, like Lakers want to add a center. It's like one of the people that they tried to add in the offseason, Jonas Valanciunas, who signed
Yeah,
with the Washington Wizards. And then they also have their eyes on Dorian Finney-Smith for the
yeah.
Brooklyn Nets.
I think that'd be a good fit for. I think I like the Dorian, uh, because I definitely like Dorian Finney-Smith in there. He's had a lot of playoff experience with the Mavericks, and he's like that perfect like role player.
3 and
Like
D.
he's a starter. I think he would start. But he's like that perfect glue guy in a starting lineup where, you know, 3 and D, what you need.
Yeah.
So I definitely like that Dorian. I don't know how Valanciunas would fit, because I think he would take up a lot of AD's space. Um, but I mean, AD, I think it definitely relieves a lot of pressure off of him. Being, not having to be like the main interior defender. You can kind of, might help him with, preventing some injuries. But you can definitely have lineups too where you take Valanciunas out and have the AD at the 5, and then you put Valanciunas
Yeah.
back at AD at the 4. So give AD some flexibility. But I think out of the two, I definitely like the Dorian Finney-Smith option the best. And I mean, I think maybe the Nets would be willing to trade him, because, I don't think the Nets are contenders at all. I mean, the Wizards aren't either, but Dorian Finney-Smith's bit of an easier player to trade off.
Yeah. I think Valanciunas signed with the Wizards because they were able to offer him more money
Yeah.
than maybe any other team was willing to pay him. But Valanciunas is coming off the bench for them. I think Alex Sarr is their
Wow.
starting center. Um,
Yeah, so maybe
I don't know
Valanciunas
how
for
What's up?
I kind of if that's the case, then I thought Valanciunas. I didn't know that Valanciunas was off the bench. I mean, I think I'd be fine with Valanciunas off the bench for the Lakers, because then you can still do that same lineup and keep AD in there.
Yeah.
I think a big dependent is Jackson Hayes. Like, do you really trust Jackson Hayes as that backup big? Because he's athletic, and he's pretty strong, but like I don't know how consistent he really is. So if you're not
Yeah.
so sure, I mean, it's definitely something you want to do later down the line. It's definitely way too early in the season to make a
I
trade like
think
that. But and I think AD's injuries have a big indicator if they want to do that trade as well.
yeah. I think Robert Pelinka has come out and said that if they're making a trade, it's going to happen closer to the trade deadline, which is in February.
Yeah.
Kind of see what they have, see what they need to do, see what pieces they need to add. In the offseason, when Valanciunas was rumored to come to the Lakers, I was kind of for it. I don't know. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Marc Gasol ad a few years
Yeah.
back. Like he's not really a defensive presence. He's more
He's
of
like
like a
physical, very physical.
rebounder and
Yeah. Good touch around
potential
the rim.
3-point shot maker. Um,
Yeah.
I don't really know how I feel. I know Jackson Hayes had his best season alongside Jonas Valanciunas when they ran that 4-5 combo against the Suns in the first round of the playoffs. They played, I think they took the Suns to 6 games, but they played really well together. but that's not the duo that you're gonna have. You're gonna have AD and Jonas. I don't know how I feel about it. I think Dorian Finney-Smith would be a good add. Originally, I think last season, it was always rumored that Dorian Finney-Smith would come over with Cameron Johnson,
Yeah.
the guy who used to be on the Suns. But now Cameron Johnson is having a career year. I think he's averaging like 19 points a game for the Nets. So you think maybe they don't want to part ways with him? Maybe he's a part of that rebuild
Well, it's
process.
definitely a younger piece as well. Like, I think they're definitely looking at keeping Cameron Johnson because I heard something that they were not interested in, or they're looking at potentially dishing off Cam Thomas. So
Yeah,
if they're
I
trying
saw
to dish
that,
off
but
Cam Thomas, then I think they're definitely going to try to invest in Cam Johnson and then a future first. I mean, Cooper Flag. I mean, there's a lot of teams that could go for Cooper Flag, but the Nets are definitely in the mix as one of those teams.
yeah. Well, I just hope the Lakers can avoid the plan, and by avoid the plan, mean that they're in the
Top
top
six.
six,
Yeah.
not out of the playoffs. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Um.
Obviously,
So
you'd
we'll
rather be in
see.
the
I'm
playoffs
gonna
playing than out. So
yeah.
give yourself a
I'm gonna
chance.
watch. I'm gonna watch the second half of the Lakers game after this without hopefully getting any scoring updates on my
Turn
phone
off
and
your notifications.
see what happens.
Well, if you've made it this far in the podcast, we would like to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving. It's coming up in a couple days. Hope you guys have a great time with your families. Definitely a special time of year. Christmas coming up as well. So make sure you guys spend a lot of time with your families and friends that are in town and eat a lot of food, man.
Yeah,
Got some of
eat
the
a
best
lot of
food.
food, good food, and for the boys listening, hope to see you in a few days when we're all back in Granite Bay. But yeah, that wraps up episode 9 of the Just Hone In podcast with your host Justin Mazzola and the
Adam Honer.
yes, sir. Thanks for listening.
Thankful that you listened to this podcast. So
Thankful for the boys,
yeah.
for the podcast, for you, Mr. Adam Honer.
Thankful for you, Justin. So
and yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.